Hello, everyone, and welcome to SCORE Fairfield County's webinar on SBA Overview, SBA 101. I'm Peter Talion, the workshop coordinator and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County, Connecticut, and I will be your host. Our speaker today is Sylina Jacobs. More on our speaker in just a minute. First, some brief information on SCORE. SCORE is a nationwide volunteer organization of about 220 offices. There are 10,000 volunteers nationally. We are part of the Small Business Administration. In Fairfield County, there are 100 plus volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. We offer 3 primary value-added services to small business owners. Number 1, free one-on-one counseling, face-to-face, telephone, email, and video, which can be accessed at any time via the Request Mentor link on our website or via the link on the screen. Educational in-person workshops and live webinars, about 100 a year. Today is an example of what it is that we do. And there are very extensive resources on our website, including a network of subject matter experts that you can take advantage of. Some useful information about today's event. If you have a question, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. We will do questions at the end. Our workshop will end promptly at 1 p.m. to respect your time. The session is being recorded, and the link to the recording will be available at fairfieldcounty.score.org within the next couple of days. Now about our speaker. Sylina Jacobs is SBA's Connecticut District Office, Bridgeport Branch Office Outreach and Marketing Specialist. She has a broad range of experience in banking, lending, entrepreneurship, as a business analyst and an online retail business owner. She values helping small businesses succeed. With a formal education from McGill University and the University of Ottawa, as well as banking and IT courses, Sylina has worked in many business sectors, including manufacturing for a Fortune 500 aerospace company, banking, and in information technology and fintech. So Sylina, before she joined the SBA, has decades of relevant business experience. Now, it is our pleasure to introduce our webinar presenter. Sylina, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Peter, and thank you, SCORE, the Fairfield chapter SCORE. And I'm really delighted to be here to speak to all of you about SBA loan programs, SBA programs, and why it's important to make SBA an essential part of your business toolkit. So without further delay, let me just go through the agenda for today of what we're going to discuss. So I will talk to you a little bit about the SBA, an introduction of what the Small Business Administration, who we are, what we are. Where do you all fit in as business owners, entrepreneurs, and then we'll take a look at an overview of the SBA programs, and then we'll talk about where to find help. So as Peter mentioned, I am Sylina Jacobs. My email is on the screen, but I'll say it out loud. It's sylina.jacobs@sba.gov, and I am the Outreach and Marketing Specialist, the Connecticut District Office, the Bridgeport Branch Office. I do like having little quotes here and there. So this one's quite relevant. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing, right? So that's really important. So a little bit about the SBA. The Small Business Administration was founded in 1953 under the Small Business Act, and its mission is to aid, counsel, assist, protect, insofar as possible, the interests of small businesses and or small business concerns. And over the years, SBA has expanded to provide more help in the areas of management, financial, and federal contract procurement, as well as outreach to women, minorities, the armed forces, veterans, and as well as helping small businesses that have been the victim of natural disasters. And we also specialize in international trade. So we do cover a lot of different areas. Many of them, we have programs in these areas, and I will address them. Last year, because I don't have the current annual report, it's still being worked on, but you can see from this chart, for those of you who have a visual on our slides. If not, I will just talk a little bit about them. So for SBA-backed lending programs, and I'll talk about what that is in a few minutes. You can see that since 2021, we've had a significant upward trend. The Connecticut Contracting and Set-Aside Awards, there's a tremendous amount of funds that are being channeled to small businesses. And then there's a map of where our two offices are. Our head office for the state of Connecticut is in Hartford, and of course we have a branch office in Bridgeport. Together with our lenders and our partners in fiscal year 2023, collaboratively, we funded over $363 million in traditional SBA loan programs throughout Connecticut. Our resource partners and its SCORE, as well as other resource partners, have counseled and assisted nearly 25,000 clients. And then we do have a state trade expansion program, which we call STEP. It's a grant which has been awarded 44 projects, retaining nearly 1,800 jobs. The goal for prime contracting for small business is 23%, and it's about the same for this year as well. So the big question, and you'll see that I have a flow chart on this, is where do you all fit in? And where do you fit in when you're at different stages of your business development? So let's take a look at this flow chart. And I'm going to be returning to this chart for those who have a visual on it. It is a sort of a chart that says you have a lot of questions, and questions and decisions sort of go hand in hand. We sort of have a lot of them throughout our entrepreneurship and small business journey. You're in the middle with the green. Am I ready? That's with respect to whatever your decisions are going to be. And we're going to talk about capital for this presentation primarily. And then on the right-hand side of your screen is what are SBA programs? How do they work? Are you eligible for them? So we'll look at SBA loans programs and the other SBA programs that are out there, because information is extremely important. You may not need them today or tomorrow, but you might need them in a few years. And knowing that that's out there is kind of important. And then in the yellow, it's sort of like, whoa, slow down a little bit. Where do I find help? And asking those sort of really important questions. Do you have a business plan? Has it been a plan that's been shelved? Can you unearth it? Where do you find help? How do you read your financials? So we'll look at those resource partners. And so everything is sort of color coordinated for this presentation. And let's get started. So SBA programs, again, the blue is sort of SBA, and it sort of holds you in that vein of thought. So this is a chart here of our programs, and I'm going to discuss them in the coming slides. So we've got microloans, we've got a 7A program, we've got 504 programs, we've got a lender match tool. We encourage small businesses to think about going global or international trade. Then we have the whole contracting bit, which I'll talk about. On the far side, we've got these other type of programs called an SBIC, SBIRs and STDRs, America Seed Funds, surety bonds, disaster programs. One thing about the government is there's a lot of acronyms. And then there's these programs called a 7A, and what is that, right? And then on the left-hand side, we do a lot of education. So I am going to begin with the the programs right in the middle of this slide, and I'm going to talk about them now. So we've got SBA programs, so these micro loans, the 7A, 504, lender match, international programs, and contracting. But before I really get into the nitty-gritty details of eligibility and how they work, I want to talk to you about some common myths about the SBA. So really important, SBA doesn't make direct loans. We only do that if there's a disaster, and disaster declarations usually happen if the governor declares Connecticut that has disaster areas. So when you ask, well, then what do you do? I'm going to answer that as well. And we don't offer any grants. We don't have grants. If you want a grant for your business, you need to go to grants.gov. Okay. SBA loan programs are loan guarantees to lenders. And that's really, really important because a lot of small business owners think that, well, I want this guarantee. It doesn't work like that. These SBA programs are government guaranteed loans to lenders. And what that means is that we provide a guarantee to the lender to incentivize them to loan funds to small businesses. By definition, a small business is risky. And so there needs to be a mechanism to incentivize these lenders to loan money. And that's how this government guarantee sort of works. Think about it as an insurance policy to the lender. They still have to go through all the steps that they normally would go through in analyzing a small business, and which is called underwriting. And they're still going to review everything, but effectively speaking, there is a guarantee between the SBA and the lender. So in the middle of the slide here, you see that that picture or the diagram of the relationship. It's between you and your lending institution, right? And that's where the funds come from, right? So again, SBA guarantees the loan that lenders make to small businesses. You will work with your lending institution, and lenders make the decision, right? They're always going to make that decision. When they make that decision and they decide to fund a loan, that relationship is between the lender and the SBA for the guarantee. If there's a problem with your loan and you default, then again, the relationship is between the SBA and the lending institution. And SBA pays that guarantee to the lender. So how do you know about eligibility? Generally speaking, this is the criteria for eligibility. You have to be an operating business. You have to be for profit. You have to be located in the United States. You need to be considered small under SBA's size requirements. You can go to SBA.gov and you can even put size into the search bar or search field. And then there's a whole PDF on what's considered size. But generally speaking, I think that if you've got just a few employees, that document is actually divided by number of employees and gross revenue. So if you're not sure about that, you can reach out to a resource partner and score. There's a list of ineligible businesses, and I have a little insert on the side of this slide that says definitely ineligible are nonprofits. If you're a bank or a lender, you're not eligible for an SBA loan. If you're a passive business, what does that mean? If you like to flip homes and buy apartment buildings, that is considered passive, ineligible. If you're a life insurance carrier, if you're involved in illegal activity, which is sort of a strange statement to say, it's ineligible, but the whole hemp world and marijuana, it's not federally legal, even though it might be legal on the state level, right? It's ineligible for an SBA loan. If you have had a prior loss to the government, you'd be ineligible. If you're government owned, ineligible. If you're a lobbyist, ineligible. If you're into speculation, speculative, wildcatting, that's not a complete list, you're ineligible. You need to also demonstrate that you weren't able to obtain credit on reasonable terms from a non-federal, non-state, non-local government source, and be credit-worthy and demonstrate reasonable ability to repay your loan. So that's the general requirements. Let's take a look at one of the first loan programs we have, which is called the micro loan. So the average loan size for a micro, so kind of what the title refers to, it's a small little loan, is about $13,000. These funds are designated for what we call intermediary or mission-based lenders. They're sort of community-based lenders, a nonprofit type organization with experience in lending and management. And they also provide technical assistance to the small business owner. And it is a relationship, again, between you as a small business owner and these intermediary lending institutions. They're usually, the loan term is 7 years. They go up to $50,000. So the maximum loan size is $50,000. And the lender has the underwriting criteria. And again, they do training and technical assistance. Then we've got the 7A program. Now, why is it called 7A? Again, it goes back to my initial slides, which referred to the Small Business Act of 1953. There is Section 7A, and that's how it got its name. There are many different loan programs under the 7A designation. So we have the 7A small. These loans go up to $500,000. And then there's a little note here that says if you've got a loan of $50,000 or less, SBA does not require collateral. The key thing here is SBA may not in our standard operating procedures, but the lender may require it. Okay. Then we've got from just over 500, so $500,001 up to $5 million is the standard 7A program. The Express is primarily a line of credit. We have cap lines, which are also line of credits, and they are a little bit more structured towards seasonal or building lines, working capital, but they are definitely lines. They go up to $5 million. We have the working capital program, and that is another type of line of credit. It also goes up to $5 million, can be used both for domestic and international transactions. But the maximum term length is 60 months, and there's a borrowing-based certificate that's required from a small business. Usually you may have an accountant or a bookkeeper or a chief financial officer or a chief. So they are familiar with a borrowing-based certificate is, and they would end up providing that usually on a monthly basis to a lending institution. 7A loans can be used for, it's basically our signature program. It can be used for all types of business operations, expansion, renovation, new construction, buying a business, buying land, purchasing equipment, doing leasehold improvements, refinancing debt, and the list sort of goes on and on. Certainly working capital if you're looking to expand with employees. Cap lines are divided up into sort of seasonal short-term working capital needs, right? So that line of credit used for construction, advances, inventory, and again, they tend to be revolvers. Continuing on under the 7A designation for the loan programs, we've got the export working capital. These are all our international programs. This is short-term working capital loans for direct and indirect exporters. They're quite short maturities up to 3 years. We have the international trade loan. Maximum loan amount goes up to $5 million. These are term loans for permanent working capital, equipment, facilities, land, buildings, business acquisition, debt refinance. And we have the export express loan, which goes up to $500,000. It's again similar to the SBA Express loan. And these again have much longer maturities, up to 25 years. So these are our global programs that we have. And then we've got a 504, again, referring back to the Small Business Act, sort of an odd name for a loan program. And these are combination packages, but primarily used to buy fixed assets or commercial real estate. And I just want to caveat, the commercial real estate is owner occupied. Doesn't have to be 100% owner occupied, but pretty close. And this is a loan program that you can think about it as it's a three-pronged, right? So you have yourselves that as a small business that's putting in 10% as the equity injection, your skin in the game. And then you've got a lender, which we call the third-party lender, who has 50%. And then we've got a CDC, which is a certified development company. You can think about that as the government guarantee portion that has 40% of the deal. Again, used for fixed assets, heavy machinery, equipment, and commercial real estate. I just want to put a little caveat onto the fixed asset. If you can pick it up and you can throw it into the back of your truck, it's not considered a fixed asset. It's really something quite large. Think about, it's got to be bolted down to the floor for equipment. So I just want to be clear, because some people think, oh, I can buy something that's like this little thing and, I'm going to get a 25-year loan. It doesn't usually work like that. Continuing on with our main loan programs, we often get asked, how can I find a lender? Of course, you can reach out to your resource partners. You can reach out to SCORE. They've got relationships with lenders and they can help you along the process. But sometimes you want to do this on your own, and we have a tool that's called Lender Match. And it is definitely, as it implies, a match between you and a lending institution. The Lender Match can go, it's basically throughout the entire United States. So it is a tool that's been revamped in recent years, and we usually call it Lender Match 2.0. And it's opt-in. And there's some different steps that are required. It's very user-friendly, and the URL for that is lending.sba.gov. We also have actually sort of lender matches on the next page, but we also have my SBA loan portal, which is sort of an easy access for small businesses to see where they can get information on their loans that they get. So the Lender Match feature, it's free, right? It's a tool between you and the many, many different lenders out there. There are 800 lenders that participate across the country. Usually you'll get an answer and a match within 48 hours, right? Again, it's really important to reach out to your resource partner for guidance on what to do when you meet with your lender. And you'll see when we go back to that sort of slide that you have to ask yourself, are you ready to speak to a lender? Our next program is federal contracting, right? So the United States government is the largest buyer or procurement of goods and services in the world. And there is a law that requires that the government contract opportunities with small businesses. And you can learn a lot more about this program by going to SBA.gov/contracting, right? So it is quite an involved process to get involved in government contracting, to the point that you need to be registered in the System of Award Management. We refer to that as SAM.gov, and that will take you days and days and days of putting together the documentation to be able to register yourself in that program. From there, you get a unique identifier, and it gives you would see the contracts being available through that through SAM.gov. Oftentimes we're asked about these federal contracting and certifications. In fact, I'm asked about certifications in all different ways, some being as recently as today, where someone asked me, well, I want a small business loan only for women. We don't have that sort of criteria. The certifications are used to enable small businesses to access those set-asides, right? We talked about that there's about 23% of the federal agencies, and there are many of them, they range from, there's about 18 agencies that will award funds to small businesses. And there are different programs and certifications that a small business can have, right? One is the 8A. If you qualify for that, you have to be socially and economically disadvantaged. It's a whole process for applying for that if you meet that basic criteria. If you do business in historically underutilized business zones, which we call hub zones, it's sort of both work and live in those zones. You need a certain percentage of your employees to live in those particular zones. Finding out where those zones are, they're all over the state of Connecticut. They're all over the country, but they're all over the state of Connecticut. Being a women-owned small business, again, that's a certification. If you are women-owned, you can apply for that, or service a disabled veteran-owned program as well. And these, being women-owned or veteran disabled certification, these are not 5-minute certifications. They take a lot of work. They take upwards of a year to get that approval as well. And you can go to certified.sba.gov to find out more information about these certifications, and they do give you an advantage when you're bidding on contracts. I also listed some of the other programs that we had on my original slide. So I talked about the SBIC, which is the Small Business Investment Company, which are private investors. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. The SBIR or STTR program through the America Seed Fund. And so the SBIR is the Small Business Innovation Research, and the STTR is the Small Business Technology Transfer Program. And you can think about R&D awarded funds, surety bond programs needed primarily in the world of contracting, and disaster programs. So let's take a look at these 4 programs that are also available to small business. So the small business investment companies, these are SBICs. So if you have strong financial performance and promising prospects, you can work with an SBIC to grow and expand. There's a little chart on this page that shows you how they work, right? The SBA puts in some funds, and the private investor puts in some funds. And again, it's a relationship between you, the small business owner, and the small business investment company. They do investment in terms of debt, equity, or a combination of both. And you can find out more information by going to sba.gov/funding-programs/investment.capital. The SBIR STTR program. These programs are primarily housed, usually, think about them when you do sort of really advanced research, technology, artificial intelligence, really at the forefront of technology. Sometimes universities are doing that type of research. Definitely private businesses are doing that type of research, small businesses. And this is sort of early stage capital. It changes. Right here, this slide says 11, but I think it changes all the time in terms of the number of federal agencies that are involved in doing these sort of these grants. And these programs are, you can go to the sbir.gov to sort of find out. If you are doing research in that area and you're looking for a grant there, usually there are 3 stages of these grants. Stage 1 is sort of writing up the statement of work. Stage 2 is the prototyping, and stage 3 is the commercialization component, which has application in the private sector. I wouldn't say they're necessarily easy or hard to get, but they're definitely in a very, very involved process. Bonding to bid on contracts, commonly known as surety bonds, and yes, it's pronounced surety. These are providers, you can think about them as like insurance companies that will provide, it's a relationship, like a third party that's involved and gives you an agreement, a surety bond, so that when you bid on a federal contract, in fact, even a municipal or a state contract, it sort of provides that confidence that you're going to be able to fulfill that that contract. And it's as a written sort of guarantee on compliance or payments or performance, right? That's sort of what it relates to. And think about it that the government wants to be sure that you can fulfill that obligation. So they may request, and they often do request, a surety bond. We've got many, many companies, surety bond companies. I think there are about 400 of them across the United States, which provide these bonds to small businesses. And then we have our disaster loan programs in Connecticut, unfortunately has had, as of late, a few big disasters with floods. And you may have heard of that as of late. And so that, again, is usually declared through the governor of Connecticut. There's various different ways that they happen. And those are the only type of programs that SBA does direct lending, right? And it can be done through we help both the small businesses and the homeowners as well as renters, if the area, the county, or even an area has been declared a disaster zone. There are funds available for real estate, personal property, economic injury, machinery, inventory, and also active duty military folks. Okay, so I have this really great slide here that says, are you overwhelmed? I should probably say, are you overwhelmed yet with all this information? So let's go back to this chart here, right? That says need capital, a lot of questions and decisions. So if we've addressed already what are the SBA programs, like how do they work and are you eligible? What are they? I covered both the loan programs and some of the other types of SBA programs. This information is available through your SCORE mentor as well as SBA.gov. And there's just a lot of information, so I understand if it's a little overwhelming, but some of it you won't need now, or it's just information gathering. We're going to take a look at the middle decision here, which is, am I ready, right? Do you have that roadmap? And what do lenders really look for? What are the 5 C's, and sort of how much money do you need? And I'm going to constantly be referring to where do you find help, right? So try not to become totally overwhelmed with all this information, but it is valuable in your toolkit. So are you ready to meet a lender? Let's find out. So one of the very important documents you need is, and you can ask that question, do you have a business plan? If you've had one, or you don't have one, or you run your business sort of on the back of a napkin, when you want to speak with a lender, you need to have a business plan. And remember, it is the key word here, it's a plan, it's a roadmap, it's a tool that helps you measure against yourself or against sort of performance measurements. It also identifies your management experience, your marketing, your sales, your strategies, your operational strategies. And it looks at contingencies, feasibility studies, analysis of your financials, your projections, your history, right? You do have a summary of all that information. When you speak to a lender, you do not have to submit to them a 50-page document or a 100-page document with tons and tons of exhibits, but you certainly do need to have a very, very solid understanding of who you are and what you're trying to do, right? You need a company description, a market analysis. You do need to have a very good understanding of what you need and what you're going to use it for. And you do need to have an understanding of what your assumptions are when you talk about financials. So this is sort of a little bit of a nutshell of what goes into a business plan, the contents, and you need to have this written down. Right? So what do lenders look for? We tend to call this the 5 C's. There are more than 5 C's on this page, and you'll see highlighted in the middle of the page, a business plan. This is where you put all this information in the business plan, right? And you need to ask that question, are you ready to go and talk to a lender? If you're not, you should be working with your SCORE mentor or any other advisor that you have a good understanding of these components, because when you talk to a lender, they are going to ask these questions. So you have to be prepared to talk about it. Your character, for example. Do you have a resume? How long have you been in business? Do you have a bankruptcy in your history? Have you ever defaulted? What's your credit score? What's going on in your credit? You need to have a good understanding of what's going on, and you can't be shy about talking about it. Your cash flow. Understand some of the basic ratios, your debt service coverage ratio. Really, really important. And if you don't know what that basically means, then you need to speak with your mentor and have them explain how you determine that information. Collateral, what do you have as collateral? What kind of assets are available? Do you have some commercial property? Are you buying a commercial property? These are all different aspects of collaterals or inventory. How does inventory play as collateral? How capitalized are you? Sometimes, and that word, it depends on how you look at it, right? It has different definitions, capitalization, but effectively it means your initial investment, your seed money for startup, as well as your equity injection, your equity into your business, as well as your debt. And what is sort of the ratio? What is being overcapitalized, undercapitalized? How much do you actually need to stay in business? And where are you getting the money from, right? Is it yours? Is it friends? Is it family? These are all different questions. Are you using a business credit card? All types of things that come under that capitalization category. Conditions. Taking a look at what is going on in the market. What is also going on within your business, right? These are super important. And then you'll see underneath that capacity. If you're going to grow, do you have the capacity to fulfill additional sales, right? Your production capacity. Do you need to hire more employees? These are sort of things. Do you need to bring on another shift? All these questions get answered in terms of your business plan, in terms of where you want to go. The last two are, is it compelling? Do you have a story? And everyone, each and every one of you has a compelling story. You do have a story. Having your own business is unique, it's custom, it's your business. And each one of you you definitely have that. And then credibility. Are your assumptions, do they make sense? Do you understand your financial statements and your projections, your expense sheets, your profit and loss? Can you explain what's going on? And those projections and assumptions, do they make sense? So these are sort of all the questions that you would have to be able to articulate and answer, and putting them into your business plan is crucial. I did say that you need to know how much money you need, and this is just a little base of project costs. Yeah, you need funds to operate until you have a positive cash flow. That would be called working capital. If you're purchasing equipment or real estate, if you have FF&Es, which is furniture, fixtures, and equipment, your payroll, your other costs that you may need, and any assumption, right? So if you're buying a piece of equipment, it's not just the equipment. Do you need to have a concrete floor put in? And so does site work need to be done? Is there different inspection levels that need to be done? Have you factored this all in? Very, very important to know how much you need and what you're going to use it for. If you go see a lender and you say, I'll take anything you get, I guarantee you'll get nothing. So I really urge you to sit down with your advisor, your mentor, and go through this information. Back to our slide of needing capital. If you need capital, and those lots of decisions. So this is your decision tree, right? Are you ready? Each and every one of you is able to answer that question. It's a custom question. Do you have that roadmap in place? What do the lenders look for, and how much money do you need? And then let's take a look at where do you find some help, because throughout this entire presentation, finding help is probably extremely crucial, right? And it goes back to one of the questions, do you have your business plans? Can you explain your financial statements? If you don't know how to do that, or you're uneasy with that, there's tons of educational resources. They can help you through that information. You don't have to be an accountant to be able to talk about your financials, but definitely you need to know what you're doing in your business. Where do you find help? So at SBA, right, if you go to SBA.gov and you put /CT for Connecticut, in fact, if you put I know there's somebody who's on from Florida, if you put FL for Florida, you'll get the same information. They all are laid out the same way, and I've sort of scrolled down. You see the little map of Connecticut. And then I also have on this page upcoming events. So you can take a look, and you can see that SCORE puts out a lot of information. And I know that Peter at the beginning of this webinar explained that they have a lot of events, both virtual, hybrid, and live. And they talk about, such as this webinar on building your sales network with LinkedIn, launching your business. You can see there's a step-by-step. They do wonderful work. And we have as well different programs like this one, for example, where we talk about what are the SBA programs, what are the SBA loan programs, and we inform small business owners about what we have. And then, so in the upper left-hand corner, I've got this little education icon, so you can go and find those tools. And then, of course, I have a slide here that is finding help. You, since you're this is being done in conjunction with the Fairfield chapter, the SCORE Fairfield chapter. I know that you've all been working with SCORE, but know that we do have a Veterans Business Outreach Center. So if there are any veterans out there, and we have the Women's Business Development Council, and we have the Connecticut Small Business Development Center. And just going back to all of them, they all provide free and confidential resources for you. They can help you with all different stages of your business development. With SCORE, they do, as Peter mentioned, come under the SBA umbrella. They're volunteers, and they are definitely driven by a philanthropic approach to helping you start and grow and expand your business. So they're coming from a very different point of starting point. So really, really phenomenal set of resources out there through SCORE, and again, score.org. So for a quick recap, and actions, right? SBA, primarily we have 3 loan programs to meet every single want and need that you have, right? We have the 7A, the 504, and the microloans. You're applying for an SBA loan through your lending institution. That is the relationship between you and your lending institution, and then between SBA and the lending institution for the government guarantee. Interest rates and loan terms are negotiated between the bank and the borrower. You would be able, we highly recommend, and I believe that since you're on this call, that you're coming through a business advisor, a mentor, and please meet with them prior to talking to a loan officer or lending officer. Review your business plan, make sure that it is effective and executable, that your assumptions are credible, that things do make sense. Know what you can afford, right? Look at your financials. It's about your ability to pay back a loan. Make sure you have that you understand what you're going to use the loan for and the purpose of the loan. And then we do have do that reality check. And each and every one of you are capable of doing that information. Your projections, are they realistic? Are they attainable? That basically concludes my presentation. I do have a slide on how are we doing. If you can scan that QR code and give us some feedback, that would be wonderful. And then my final slide is, I do again have a quote that says, no matter what, expect the unexpected. And when you're in your own business, definitely that's probably a really strong quote. That's probably why I picked it. And whenever possible, be the unexpected. And that was Linda Berry, the cartoonist, author, and motivational speaker that quote came from. And so I wanted to thank you all for your time. And I'm Sylina Jacobs. Again, I'm the Outreach and Marketing Specialist for the United States Small Business Administration for the Connecticut District Office, the Bridgeport Branch Office. I urge you to follow us on LinkedIn and on X. And are there questions? And I'm here to answer as best I can. Thank you again. And Peter?
Yep. Thank you very, very much, Sylina, for the outstanding, very well organized and detailed presentation. I'm sure it was very, very useful to the folks. We will take questions. If you have a question, if you wouldn't mind putting it into the Q&A section at the bottom of the screen, we will spend a couple of minutes going through those questions. We had one question come through the chat, which I will ask you first while we're building the queue for the follow-on questions. One of our listeners said, I'm interested in opening a cafe. I'm starting a new business. I am being told it's very hard to get an SBA loan for new businesses for equipment. Can you just tell our audience, if I am in this particular person's situation, I'm looking to start a new business, what are the first 2 or 3 steps that you would recommend for somebody who is interested in starting a new business?
Okay, so thank you to whomever asked that question. I'm sort of looking at some of the questions. So first of all, that's sort of a misnomer to say that it's really hard to get an SBA loan. These are government guaranteed loans, and one of the criterias that helps lenders make an SBA loan to start up is because they have that government guarantee. That's the first thing. really, really important. You need to work with a business advisor, a SCORE mentor. That's like critical because they're going to base the information as to whether they can underwrite an SBA loan or a loan on what you have in that business plan, those projections that you're making, those assumptions that you're making, they have to be rock solid. And sometimes you may not be ready for a large SBA loan, but a micro loan is also an SBA loan. So, and that part of that SBA loan is technical assistance. And of course, you can always keep working with your mentor. It's not a one and done relationship. This is an ongoing relationship. I know with Fairfield SCORE, some of their clients have been with them for 10 years. And again, it's very, very important that you have a strong business plan. And when I mean strong, that you've addressed a lot of the questions, you have to be able to answer those questions. Okay. So I hope I did answer the question for startups and accessing an SBA loan.
Okay, so thank you very much for that information.
That was for Elizabeth. I see that. She
Right.
asked that question.
There's one from Jessica. I am looking to start a business that contains art and mingling among family kids. My lady mentor helps me think my business I started, which is an organizing coordinator. So it's a little hard, Jessica, if you could just clarify your question in terms of what your question is,
Right.
that would help us out.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen also. There. I don't know if
We have
that's
another
better.
question in the Q&A. All right, so the next question I'll read to you, Sylina. Does a business have to show proof of rejection by a conventional lender, a rejection document, before they will qualify for an SBA loan?
That's a very specific type of question. It used to be like that, but generally, you don't need to really show proof of rejection. So I hope that answers that question. You don't usually have to do that.
Okay.
But let me actually just say one other thing. If you go and see multiple lenders, you have to be super careful about your credit, your personal credit, because the lender does pull credit. So if you're hopping around to lenders and they're pulling credit, your score is going to go down. So be very careful about that. Why you've been rejected, I mean, those are some of the questions that sometimes you don't even have an answer for that. Lender doesn't want to discuss it. So these are things that you need to really take a look at with your advisor, your mentor, to sort of discuss what's going on. And you have to be forthright about your credit. So if you keep going to multiple lenders and they keep dinging it, your credit is going to be dropping. So that is sometimes an issue.
Okay, excellent advice. Our next question, is there any difference if the business is temporary, like landscaping, tree care, snow removal services? Can we get a loan in this industry?
Oh, yeah, that's like seasonal. Seasonal loans, it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're looking for a line of credit, we have those cap lines for lines of credit. Definitely can get an SBA loan for that. Again, think about it also with your ability to pay back the loan. Really important because sometimes when you're seasonal, what are you doing on the other season, right? So because SBA loans are not paid, think about it as if you're in the agricultural industry when crops come in and then you start making your sales. Like you are paying this loan on a monthly basis. So you definitely need to show your financials and where you're going to get the funds to be able to pay, not just during the winter months, for example.
Excellent advice. We answered that question? Okay.
Jessica is back.
All right, so thank you for pulling over, Jessica. We appreciate that. How do I go about letting go my old and starting my new? have a resume that goes from home care, childcare to demolition. Then you drove trucks. So she believes my business now. I should keep going with, but that isn't doing as great. So I guess the question is the pros and cons of staying with a business that you are already in that isn't going so well versus starting a brand new business.
Okay, yep, and I do see she said that. So generally speaking, we urge you to work with your SCORE mentor, or if you're working with another advisor. This is really personal and custom to you. The SBA is not going to give you a recommendation. In fact, I don't even believe your SCORE advisor or mentor is going to give that. It's really for you. They'll ask the questions and you have to flush out the direction. That's what a business plan is for. Right? You're going to look at those financials, your past, your future, and sort of make your own decisions. It's all custom analysis and deciding what directions you want to go.
Okay. I think we have come to the end of our questions, just right on time. So thank you very, very much, Sylina, for your expertise, for preparing a very detailed presentation for us. There is a recording of this webinar that will be available on the fairfieldcounty.org website. And you can listen to it as many times because there is a lot of information in it. Please check our website for information on other upcoming webinars. There are many every month that are very, very helpful. Think about asking to meet with a SCORE mentor or another resource who can help you walk through this complicated process. At the end of our presentation, there will be evaluations that will be sent to you. We ask that you fill them out so that we can continue to do a better and better job to serve you. So on behalf of SCORE, I'd like to thank you all for attending today's live workshop. And Sylina, thank you so very much for your time and expertise. Everybody have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.